Welcome to PhD&D here on YouTube. Back with another video. Today it is going to be all about magic in your campaign. I want to present some ideas, get some people thinking, and I want to hear some feedback on this as well in video responses, comments, whatever you wish. But I'm talking about magic in your campaign world, or just in the campaign you're running. How do you use it? What level of magic? All of the above. So we'll get rolling here. In your world, what level of magic is there? Because obviously in a fantasy RPG, it plays a big role. No matter if it's a slight amount of magic, if it's a lot, there's usually magic in a fantasy RPG, making it fantasy. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is it really apparent in your campaign or in the games that you play? Is magic something that's, wizards walking the streets, people riding griffins from high towers in the skies, castles in the skies, things like that? Is it very apparent where, monsters are all over the place? Like I said, wizards, magic, just very apparent? Or is it something a little more hidden where there's kind of rumors about it? Maybe it was a historical thing. Maybe, I've heard that a lot where there's always talks about the old days when there were magic and dragons, and it's kind of on the down low today. No one really knows, and I've heard that used a lot, actually. But what level is your campaign on? How hidden? If it's hidden, do you make that affect your players and their powers and their choices? Now over to the historical thing where, way back when. Is it just kind of rumored that way? Do you actually flesh it out as a GM what it used to be like back then? I feel like if you're going to have rumors and scrolls on ancient magic that used to exist, I feel like you should put a little work in so you know exactly what those scrolls were about, so that you know at some point if it's going to pop up again exactly what level it's going to be at. Now, magic items is another thing that's going to go along with that in an RPG. I'm talking here about D&D, but it can go through other game systems as well. It's kind of generic. What do you do as far as magic items in comparison to the level of magic in your game? And sometimes if you look at the magic item economy in your game, you can tell just what level of magic there is. You probably shouldn't have them conflicting. I've never really seen a game where, magic is kind of hush-hush and it's not very apparent, yet there's tons of magic items everywhere. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If you do that and have an explanation, that's great. I'd love to hear it, but I can't see how that would work, I guess. With magic items, they can be on a level of, you purchase them anywhere. I don't like that as much. My game is more of magic is apparent in certain areas. It's kind of more hush-hush in others. There's lands where there's places where you can buy low enchanted items. I don't like to provide huge magic items just through purchase there. But then there's levels where you're not going to find anything, and you're going to freak people out if you display a lot of magic. So with magic items, another question that kind of brings up, and this is kind of off track, but I want to hear what everyone does with it. Do you require a player to, through some skill or die roll, identify the magic item so they know what it is and can use it for everything it's got, all its stats if it's got them? Or do you just tell them what it is? I do the second. I just go ahead and let them know what they found, and I'll tell you why in just a little bit. Because I just have never found it fun to sit there and make them roll to try and figure out what the hell they're holding in their hands. That just kind of saps the fun for them. It might be a little more real because you're not able to know, but I've just found it a lot more fun to just kind of let them know what they've got. And the reason is because with magic items in my campaign, I use more of a story with them. They've got a big story behind them before the character even gets a hold of that magic item. That way it's kind of built up. They've got an idea of what they were looking for anyways, or they've heard about it through some manner. There's a really powerful sword that the characters really wanted to get a hold of, because the ancient tales said that a war a long time ago was actually fought, and the leader of one side had this weapon, and it was said that this weapon was what won him the war. Now that could be true or not, and I've actually kind of played around with what I wanted that to be, and it was probably not true. It was a good weapon, but I don't see how one weapon can win a war. Now, I'm sure it could if you put some thought into it, but they've had all this build up for this weapon. They've researched it through books, talked to scholars, heard all about it, and finally through the whole adventure, and when they finally got it, they just let them know what it was, magic item wise, because it had a value behind it with that story. It just wasn't filler in a room. I can't stand it when, you walk into a room, oh, you found a box full of magic items, because that's the proper treasure for the level you are. I can't stand that. That is lamer than a crippled kobold. It is one of, as a player especially, I can't stand it as a GM, but even as a player, you walk in a room and the GM says that, you're just kind of like, oh, sweet, well, I got another magic item. Thanks for the story. Not really. So do you make your players identify those magic items, or do you let them know why or why not? That's something I'm interested to hear everyone's point of view on. The last thing I kind of want to go over is magic overall. Do you have a level of mystery around it, or do you try to explain it? And let me tell you what I mean by this. Take, for instance, Star Wars, The Force. The Force was this awesome thing, in my opinion. It was, it was just there. It was unexplained. Star Wars Episode 1 comes along, explains the Force with midichlorians, that whole little spiel. It just kind of killed it for me right there. I don't really like that it was explained, because it had a lot more for me unexplained. Do you explain magic in that way as part of, the physics of your world, or do you just kind of let it sit as magic? So let me know again, how apparent is magic in your world? How do you handle magic items? Do you make characters identify them? Do you do that just for them? And then what level of mystery is there? Is magic explained, or is it kind of just left alone in your campaign? Thanks for watching, and hope to see some responses on this.